Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Britain says it will cede sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius in an historic deal which could pave the way for the return of residents displaced by colonial strong-arming decades ago. Also, not enough is being done to safeguard, share and unpick Africa's vast, complex and fascinating history. I hear more about this from the founder of a Ghanaian organisation working throughout the continent and diaspora to deepening understanding in order to better prepare Africa to grasp its future. And Ethiopian motorists face a tough drive after the government's ban of petrol and diesel vehicles. The intention was to force a change of lane and encourage a green shift, difficult to do in a country where about half of the population still can't count on regular electricity. But first, Mauritius says that Britain's handing over of the long-contested Chagos Islands draws an important line under the Indian archipelago's colonial history. The UK's last African colony is at the heart of a decades-long bitter dispute and long-running human tragedy. Laurent Berstecker talks us through.
After decades of international pressure, Mauritius was handed back control of the Chagos Islands by the UK. A symbolic victory hailed by the country's prime minister as proof that smaller nations can obtain justice.
Some thought it was impossible, because a small country like ours would never be able to make their case against such great powers.
Located at the center of the Indian Ocean, the Chagos archipelago used to be part of Mauritius when it was still a British colony. In 1965, Britain decided to separate the two territories in order to build a military base on the largest island in the Chagos, Diego Garcia. The base was then leased to the US and was used in several conflicts, including wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Central to Thursday's agreement, Mauritius agreed to let the UK retain control of Diego Garcia for the foreseeable future, a move hailed by Joe Biden, who said the base still played a vital role in national and global security, but that will for now prevent the return of Chagossians to the island.
Diego Garcia formed part of us. I do not see the point why we cannot be going to Diego Garcia as well.
In the early 70s, Britain evicted over 1,500 Chagossians from their homes. Many have since mounted a series of legal claims for compensation and are now hoping to return. In a joint statement on Thursday, the British and Mauritian governments said they would strive to address the wrongs of the past and support the welfare of the Chagossians.
Now, leaders from around the world, including many from across Africa, have been arriving in Paris this week for a summit that France hopes will boost its influence around the world. It's the first time the summit's been held here in 33 years and comes after the Élysées' sway in Africa has recently taken a series of hits. But the Secretary General of the International Organization of Francophonie, who's also Rwanda's former foreign minister, on Thursday made clear that the gathering is not just a celebration of France as such, but of French-speaking cultures, many of which are African.
In international organizations and in European organizations, the French language is in decline. But the number of speakers is increasing, not least because of African demographics, because more than half of African countries are members of this organization, and these are countries with extremely young populations. The Francophonie organization is not France. If the Francophonie were today, as it has been in the past, an organization that was manipulated or led by France, I don't think I would be here.
Now, that link between understanding of the past and the construction of a better future is crucial to the continent's development. Language, culture, history, all essential components to both diplomatic soft power and the forming of a nation or a region's sense of identity and ambitions. Earlier, I spoke to the founder of a Ghanaian NGO working to foster better understanding of the continent's vast, complex and varied backstory.
The symbol in the Haxa Foundation logo is the Sankofa bird, which means literally go back and get. And for us, learning from our past informs our future. When I was ambassador of Ghana to UNESCO, I realized that there were many people who didn't know, including, I have to say myself, that we had 28 forts and castles in Ghana registered and listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And I made it a very urgent ambition to make sure that people knew more about this and that the sites were labeled as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The HAXA Foundation has also done tours in partnership with Google Arts and Culture, virtual tours, which you can find on the Google Arts and Culture website, highlighting very important and significant sites to do with the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, and the independence struggle. Ghana has come full circle from being the country where Europeans first arrived in search of gold, and subsequently the transatlantic slave trade developing, to being the first colonized country to be independent in Africa. And so Kwame Nkrumah and Ghana really initiated the liberation of Africa from colonialism. Martin Luther King was at our independence celebration and was inspired to go back home and fight for civil rights in the US. All this history needs to be told, and I think the progress of Africa is very much tied to the past experiences that Africa has had.
So how do you go about telling this history? I mean, and what do you focus on? I mean, it is an endless, enormous task. How do you package up what your goals are when it comes to trying to make the world, not just Africans, more familiar with the backstory of the continent?
Yes. So we put in the framework of the past, the present, and the future. And we try and create a bridge between our past and our future. So for us, one of our very important programs is Tech for Girls. And Tech for Girls, which I initiated when I was first at UNESCO, is a program where we teach young girls coding skills, which will change their lives really and give them those skills. As a 15-year-old, I came to England, and in sixth form, I was able to study computer science from a very pioneering lady. I did an O-level in computer science when I was in sixth form. And that, I found, changed my life because I embraced technology. I really enjoyed coding. Unfortunately, I didn't go on to study coding or computers. I studied law. However, I made sure that my family, my children, my husband, even my mother had computer skills, which they could use in a life-changing way. And I feel that this is something which can actually change and transform the future of Africa if we teach girls computer skills and to code.
Well, this year, Ethiopia banned the import of petrol and diesel vehicles, forcing drivers to convert to electric cars. And despite the environmental considerations behind the shift, the step is a pretty radical one in a country where only around half the population has access to reliable electricity. Our correspondents tell us more.
Nati no longer has to wait in line at gas stations in Addis Ababa. In January, the government banned the import of petrol and diesel vehicles, so he bought an electric car.
I just saved a lot of money for fuel, and it's a brand new car. I like it, that's why I buy it.
He now spends 14 euros a month on electricity compared to 160 euros on fuel. But charging stations haven't opened up yet, so he powers his car at home, which isn't always easy.
Sometimes there's no power, so we don't go out to work. We just waited for you.
Natty chose a Chinese electric car, which on average costs 10,000 euros less than European models. This dealer saw this as an opportunity and now specializes in selling and repairing electric vehicles. He partnered with a Chinese manufacturer who provides an on-site technician.
Kim is helping us to fix the cars and to communicate with the factory and train our staffs for future.
While electric cars are cheaper to operate, they're still expensive, starting at 25,000 euros.
If you are buying a car, it means that you are almost joining the middle income curve because cars are very expensive in Ethiopia because of many reasons. Among them, the major one is the tax is somehow higher than other countries. When it comes to electric cars, the government has made a lot of adjustment. But the thing is, the logistic cost is very high.
Since 2019, Ethiopia has imported 100,000 vehicles, with plans to reach 400,000 by 2030.
That's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though. Do so again if you can. Take care.